Welcome to today's Warhammer 40k podcast, and I'm here with the other half of Warhammer. It is Jack, and it's coming right up. I nearly forgot my "it's coming right up" line.
You nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this podcast. Right, here we go again, and this time I have another very special guest. We have Jack from Warhammer. Hello, Jack. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Thanks so much for coming on. Of course, we had Dan, the other half of Warhammer, on the podcast a few episodes ago. So yeah, it's great to. Well, let's find out more about the other side. Of, Warhammer.
I was a little bit jealous you had Dan on, and I was like, hold on, what's going on here? I was like, get me on this.
Well, of course, we've got a link to Jack's channel in the description below, in the pinned comment. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you do check out the Warhammer channel, because it's an awesome channel, great chats, and we can see half of the background that's used in your videos, haven't we?
Certainly can there, yes. I was trying to think of a way to get it nicely in the shot, but I was like, it's too much, it's too big. It's too big and too small.
Okay, we're going to keep the same format as always. We're going to do some hobby questions. We've got 5 hobby questions. We've got 5 questions about your channel. And then we're going to talk about, well, the hobby itself, the gaming itself as well. I've got a mixture of questions that maybe I'll pop in along the way. So,
love it.
Are you ready? Are you all set?
I'm in the hot seat. I'm ready to rock.
Okay, so here we go. The first question is, how did you get into this awesome hobby of ours?
Yes. It's an interesting one. Well, it's not really so much interesting to me because I love it.
It's always interesting. Because everybody's story tends to be different.
Yeah, I think it's actually quite a nice one, a little wholesome one. I think. I've always been in and out over the years, but when I first got into it, it was back when I was in primary school and I was in like year 6. I was quite young at the time. But at the time, I was just playing football, playing rugby, all the standard stuff. And then one of my teachers was just like, I'm starting up this hobby. I don't know if anyone's going to be interested in it. It'd be class if some of you can come along, see what it's like, maybe get a feel for it. And we were just like, what is it? And he goes, it's a board game. Obviously, we had no idea what a board game was when we were little, to a degree, And then he was like, we'll come roll some dice, have some fun. And we were just like, yeah, why not? What's there to go? We'll go there. If we don't like it, we don't like it. But we ended up getting there. And he just pulls out like the first edition Space Hulk game.
Right.
And we were like, what's this? So he starts pulling out all of the terrain, all of the models. So start seeing like the Terminators coming out, the Librarian and such, alongside like the Gene Stealer cults coming out as well. And I was like, ooh, what is, like, rubbing my hands. I was like, what's going on here? And then we just started playing. So there was about 10 of us, and there was obviously the teacher who was playing like the Gene Stealers, and we were assigned like a Space Marine every week. So like one week I'd be the Librarian, one week I'd just be one of the normal bog standard Terminators, but then another week I'd be like the one of the heavy flamer. And it was really interesting because like as we started this, we were like, right, we're going to work together. We have to beat the teacher. We've got to defeat him, yada, yada. And then as the time goes on, we started getting very much like, every man for himself in this mission. Like, I don't care for any of my brothers in this. We're going to survive. So we'd do like, we ended up finishing like the game, like the box, and like some at the end of some of the missions, you had to get back to like a teleporter beacon. But as soon as that objective came alive, everyone just pushed everyone else out the way. We're like, right, we're literally complaining, saying, your fat ass is in my Terminator space, get out of it so I can get past you. And it just turned into this massive, just really good collective. And that's kind of how I started it. From that point, I was hooked on Space Marines. So I was like, right, I've got to get some Terminators because they're like the staple of what I've seen. And then I remember going back and I looked online, and I just started searching for some square black boxes online, and I made my own Space Hulk map. So then it was just so good, and then just started playing. I got my, at the time, Nova friends kind of wanted to come back, and like it was like late at night, so I was like showing my mom. I was like, hey, look at this. I was like, it's Space Hulk. You move these guys, and she was clearly like, yeah, rolling dice, not having a clue what's going on. But that's kind of how I got into it. And then I think it was the same time the teacher became the head teacher and moved elsewhere. And then I painted him up. I think it was like a captain in like it was like a captain of some sort of Space Marines, painted up really well. And I was like, look, before you leave the school, I need you to take this model. And he's like, no, you need it. That's your captain. It's gonna like, it's gonna lead your men. And I was like, no, you've got me such into the hobby. I need you to take this model and like use it in your own games and such. So that's I think that's when I really got into the hobby. I would say
It's quite interesting
nice.
because I was talking to Steve-O in the last episode. I think he got in mainly through things like Hero Quest and stuff. And at the end of that conversation, I said, I think Space Hulk is like a big one that a lot of people got into the hobby. So, I think it did wonders, that game, for GW.
So good. So good. I really hope they bring it out again. Like, I've been looking at the prices, and it's a bit pricey at the minute. So really hope they do a reprint of them, because it'd be fantastic to play.
Yeah, definitely. So, what armies do you own at the moment, and what armies have you owned over the years?
Oh, I think this is like a shameful question. But maybe everyone else is like got like high numbers as well.
Most people have got high numbers.
Good. No one shame me. But no. So currently, I've got 4 armies. So I've got fully painted Necrons. I've just got a fully painted Imperial Knight list now as well. I've got fully unpainted Tyranid army and a fully unpainted but built Imperial Guard army. They're my 4 armies at the minute. I love them all. I was just saying to my friend the other day, he asked for a game. He goes, what army do you want to play? And I was like, honestly, I could play any of them and I'd be very happy. I'm just loving. I think I'm just loving the game right now. I just want to play. I want to play all of them, but I can't. I've got to.
How do you find it keeping up with the rules though for them? If you've got those 4 armies and you play them quite regular, do you keep up? Can you keep up with the rules?
I'm not too bad, to be fair. Honestly, credit where credit's due. I really like using the app that they've got now. So I know that's just obviously came out in the last couple of years, but I find it so useful to kind of keep track. So, if I pick up like Imperial Guard, for example, it does take me a little bit of time because obviously there's like so many models and such. Or like Tyranids, for example, they've got loads. So the games last a little bit longer than 3 hours, but kind of like around my friend's house, so it's not really too much of an issue. But yeah, it's.
Well, I've got 6 armies in total.
Nice.
Necrons, Tyranids, Eldar, Dark Eldar, Emperor's Children.
Yeah.
And like the other day, I was looking at my model collection. I thought it'd be really nice to play like Eldar, because I haven't played them for years. And I thought the best way to do it is Combat Patrol, right?
Oh yeah,
you just pick it up, play a game, Yeah, I'd look at the Combat Patrol. I haven't got the miniatures in there.
Oh no!
Combat Patrol. So I thought, I'll have a look at the Space Wolves. I've got Space Wolves as well.
Yeah.
Space Wolves Combat Patrol, I haven't got all those miniatures.
Oh, man.
Dark Eldar, no, I haven't got any of those miniatures. So the only ones I've got is Tyranids and obviously the Necrons. Because obviously my armies are like older armies, they're like 5th, 6th, 7th edition, and like Combat Patrol now, they've sneakily put other models in, newer range and stuff.
Oh yeah, because you've been collecting since like day 1, right?
3rd edition.
3rd edition. It's good. That's really good. I've got to admit, I'm so much falling in love with the metal models. I've got a very good Necron army, but I'm like looking. I'm like, well, I don't need any more warriors. I don't need any more immortals. And then I was looking. I was like, oh, I could do some metal models.
Metal ones, yeah. I love classic miniatures. Yeah. And I actually went out and I did get myself like some metal warriors. So I've got 30 metal warriors.
Yeah.
I was using them as Tesla Immortals at one point. I didn't have any Tesla Immortals. I thought they were quite a good stand-in.
Yeah.
I've got
one.
I've got one metal Immortal. That's in my entire collection. I just use them as like an objective marker. Got them on this massive base with a load of scarabs. But they
Nice.
go for a fortune, don't they, on eBay?
Honestly, it's crazy. I got an absolute steal. I've got those out of no, well, they're all out of print, but I got the the Necron Pariahs. That's what's called.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's
like
right.
those like the Sisters of Battle, no, like the Null people, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like back in 5th edition, was it, when those were
Yeah,
around?
well, third edition
Third
they were
edition.
the Pariah,
Yeah.
and then when fifth edition came out, they got rid of them.
Got
They
rid of
got the
them.
new law. Yeah,
Got you. I got an absolute steal. I was at this place called Oddhammer where they do like a car boot sale for Warhammer. We've mentioned it a couple of times. It's great. And there was a big box, a big bag of Necrons, and it had like £8 on it. And I was like, £8 for like I spotted like 10 warriors, and I was like, £8 for 10 warriors. I was like, that's a steal. I grabbed that, give him the £8, walked away, got home. Turned out it had 20 warriors inside, and I was like, all right. Immense, amazing. Got to the bottom of the bag, 5 Necron Pariahs, metal models. I was like, oh, beautiful. And then I had a metal Necron Scarab as well. I was like, what? I was like, I didn't even see these ones in here, and they were so good. So yeah, I've got a healthy collection of Necrons, just just like yourself.
Yeah, very nice. Is that it? You've gone through all your armies?
I think so. I used to collect Space Marines, but yeah, that's far in the past. Far in the past.
So how often do you actually get to like play and hobby?
Yeah, not as much as I would like. Not as much as I would like. Starting YouTube, obviously having to edit those videos and get those out. I've pulled back on the actual playing element. But I'll be honest, I was talking to Dan, obviously my other half, Dan, on the channel, and he was saying he's like been playing like once a week, and I was like, damn. I'm gonna have to start playing, because me and him, there's a rivalry building between us, because I've not lost a game against him yet. And I'm getting really worried because he's becoming a very
practicing.
He's becoming a very good player, and I'm like, oh, I need to pop up my knowledge so that he can't beat us. It's like a selfish reason, but I need to keep winning. I need to. So, sorry, Dan, if you're watching, you probably are. I'm sorry, but I'll try not to let you win ever. So yeah, need to play more.
So, what would you say is your best wargaming story?
Ooh, see, I was thinking about this one. To be fair, for me, there's a clear winner. So, a good few years ago, when we started kind of really getting back into the hobby, like really playing regularly, like twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. It was on the run up to Warhammer Fest. And we were really looking forward to going. So I started playing, getting like the rules and such, and kind of just getting a good grasp of it, because it was like the first grand tournament I've ever been to before. And I was a bit nervous, because I was like, oh, like who am I going to play? You know, is it going to be like someone from a team or something like that? And anyways, we'll get there. I get to my table, and there's like these. I don't know if you've been to One World, but it was like there's not One World, sorry, Warhammer Fest, long tables of people and players. And I was super nervous, like really nervous. And then I met the player, and he was an orc player. He was a lovely bloke, and I shook his hand, and we're having a good old chat beforehand. And then a judge walks past. Now, at the time, my Nightbringer had like some 3D printed scarabs on the bottom of his base. And I was like, oh my god, like it's a judge. I'm gonna get found out somehow. I'm gonna get found out, even though they were nicely painted, glued to the bottom. You know, I was a bit like, oh my god. And he comes up, he's like, oh, I like the look of your models. And I was like, oh, thank you. And he looks at the orc player. He's like, oh, I like the look of your models as well. And we were like, oh, thank you. And he's like, oh, you've played before? And we were like, oh, like I was like, first tournament, but I'm like, I know the rules, and so was he. And he's like, oh, and he turns to the front stage. Now, Warhammer Fest, there was at least 120 tables playing, so there was at least like close to 300 players. And he goes, do you want to go play on the top table? And I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, whatever you fancy, to the orc player, hoping he would say no. And he goes, oh yeah, that sounds fantastic. So there's me, I'm packing up my Warhammer with my box, walking up to the front, starting to absolutely panic and just sweat through my through everywhere. And I walk up onto the stage, and there's commentators, you know, they're getting us to like sign some documents, because I was gonna like be on stream or whatever. And I was like sorting my stuff out. And I messaged my friends. I was like, guys, I was like, I'm on the top table. I was like, this is not fun. I'm not a good player. I was like, I'm in the wrong. I don't know what. I don't know why they've picked us. But I ended up being on stream. So during Warmer Fest, they were playing my table all around the room, and obviously on Twitch, they were obviously like talking about like how I was playing, and there was like some shots where like I lean over and you can see us, and I was like, oh, this is so nervous. And I remember just playing with obviously just it was like round 2. I was just moving my stuff, and I turned, and I see my friend, just him by himself, just in the middle on the front section of the stage, and he just does a little thumbs up, and I was like, oh, thanks, like I'm super nervous, thank you. So I turn around, I finish turn 3, and I turn back, and it must have been all the other players started to like finish their game, so they naturally made their way to the front stage to like just like see what's going on and see the top tables. And I turn around and there must be like 50 to 60 people just standing maybe like 5-6 meters away from us watching me play on the giant projection screen behind us. And I was like, oh no, like I hope they're not watching for any tips, because wasn't a good player. So I was just super nervous, and I rewatched the pod on Twitch about it, and it was interesting because the commentators again was very good. Like, Jack's playing a really good move here. You can see he's like, I made one play where I retreated my scarabs. I had like 3 squads of 9 scarabs because. They're amazing. 24 wounds, amazing. So I retreated the scarabs off the like behind the objective and to defend some people. And they were like, "Oh, hold on, why has Jack retreated his scarabs off from being in combat back onto the objective? Like, what's that going to do?" And then at the end of my turn, I scored some points, and they were like, "Oh, we had no idea he was going to do that. That's amazing!" And I'm just like, "Well, Did
you win that game then?
I didn't win, but it was a very good game. I'm not saying that the guy got the rules wrong, because we both got the rules wrong, and it was an absolute mess. Looking back, I didn't score myself for some of the secondaries because I was so nervous. I kept messing up my abilities. He kept messing up his abilities, and it was a mess. But you know what? It was fun. We had like 4 explosions in that game, so just overall, it was just a fantastic game, to be honest. But
I think it must be very rare for anyone to play a game.
Yeah,
and there's not be any mistakes made.
Right?
I played a game and thought I played it perfectly, but then when I'm editing the battle report, it's like, hang on, I just picked up a 1 and wronged it. That's like you just don't see it sometimes, do you?
So, like I said before, the app that they've made has got a lot better, but realistically, there's just so. I mean, especially the transition from going from 9th edition to Index, I got so many things wrong because with Necrons. They didn't change them massively. It was only a small change. So that confused me more because it was like, I think the Catan or something like some of the models went from like a 9-inch move to an 8-inch move. And that really threw me off because it wasn't a big change. It was a small one. So I was I just kept forgetting it. So I noticed so many things so often after games.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, especially if you're recording it as well, it's like you just see it straight away afterwards.
You do.
Sometimes I'll actually edit the battle report, not see the mistake.
Yes.
Put it on YouTube, and someone goes, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." So, why didn't I spot that in the editing?
Yeah.
Well,
it's the obviously we do probably talk about it later, so I won't get too much into it. But obviously we do the unit reviews, and even like I sit there and I research them, I get insight, I look, I try and collect all my resources. And then sometimes I'll just get something wrong, and I'll be like, "How did I miss that? I spent like an hour researching it. Like it's only a couple of lines, I still get it wrong."
And the more editions you play, the worse it gets. And the more they change the rules as well.
It's honestly, it does. So like, I think again, it's just there's sometimes too many rules, too many niche rules as well. I think.
I was looking at the Overlord the other day because I was going to play a list with the Overlords in.
Yeah.
So I looked at the data card, obviously read that, thought, oh no, hold on, they changed it. You can only use the free stratagems on
battle tactic
stratagems. Yeah. So oh no, hold on, now they changed it again.
Yeah.
So now it's any one, but not one you've already used effectively, right? It's like, well, hold on. So this has been changed twice. This data cards. So you just get so confused sometimes.
So confusing. And again, obviously the new Prior Nexus came out, so like they've changed some of the missions that are on there are the same as the old one, but it's a different name. And I'm like, like, What's that one again? It's so annoying.
I know,
So
I
annoying.
know.
Hard to keep track.
So we know that you've obviously recently done a Knights army. That's your latest
Yes.
army, right? And we know you
Yeah.
have 2 unpainted armies.
Yes.
However,
Oh, don't.
any plans for a new army?
It's scary because I go into the shop just to be like, oh, I need some paint, need some model, not models, I need some paint, I need some plastic, other things, and I see models, and I'm like, ooh, that would be really interesting to paint. So the only plans so far that I've dipped my toe in was recently just my birthday, my 30th birthday. So my other half, my fiance, shall I say, she decided, she was like, oh well, would you like to paint some models together? And I was like, yeah, I've got a massive backlog of models. I was like, I'd love to get you some help to spray them, paint them. I was like, I was thinking it'd be great. And she was like, oh, I really want my own model. I was like, oh yeah, hey, I'm not going to question that. Let's go get you a nice model. So went in store and we're shopping, and I almost influenced that slightly, and I think I've naturally picked my next army because she picked up, she was looking for something that had wings. So I was like, oh, Sisters of Battle. I was like, they've got some really cool models. She was like, oh, I'm not a big fan. I was like, oh, no worries. I was like, what about she picked up like a Drakari model, and I was like, oh, you can't get that one. She was like, why not? I was like, oh well, Dan's got it, so we can't have Drakari. She was like, oh, okay, and shopping a bit more, and she found a I forgot the name of it. It was just one of the Eldar ones that has like the Reaper. It wasn't, so we couldn't find those ones, but it was like the HQ with the
oh yeah, the Autark, the flying with the wings. Yeah,
I think so. There, yes. So saw that, and I was like, oh yeah, Eldar sounds good. So then I picked up another Eldar model, left the store, and I was like, huh, have I just naturally started a new army? So I'm gonna say I'm not starting a new army, but I have just bought some new models for a new army.
We'll watch this space then.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said to everyone. I sent them a picture being like, watch this space. Might be doing it. I'm going to try and push it back as much as I can, but I think Eldar is the natural progression after this. I think as well, Dan hates Eldar. He always struggles against them. So I think naturally as well, being me and him, little rivalry, I'm just like, I might start an Eldar one just to really get in there. Yeah, Sorry, Dan, if you're watching.
It? Like, I'll turn up with a unit of wraiths, and like Richard will say, oh, I really hate wraiths. Like, oh.
Yeah.
And then the next week it's like, I've got 3 units of wraiths this week, Richard.
Yes. Honestly, I respect it. Like, if I said I hate this unit and someone brought like 3 of them, I'd be internally so mad, but also just like, you know what, I respect it. It's so funny. It's so good. Oh man.
Okay, well, great hearing about your hobby. We are going to move on to the next segment, which is about your channel. Obviously, I have asked these questions already to Dan, so
yes,
I might also throw in a few different ones because I'm quite interested to hear a few things as well. So we're going to start off with an unplanned, unprepared question.
Spicy.
I'm very interested to find out how you and Dan met and how you decided to come up with the idea to do a channel.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. So I started, obviously, again, getting kind of relatively into Warhammer at the time. I was like, let's do a small tournament around ours just to kind of get us used to tournaments, like a tournament scene, like a tournament game, I guess mindset or something like that. Yeah. So I was like, I'll invite a few friends around. And one of the friends was like, I've met this person in the Games Workshop store. Is it okay if he comes along? I was like, yeah, invite him along. That's fine. And obviously that was Dan. Dan got invited along, and I'd never met him. And he was coming into a house of like 10 random blokes. He's never met them in an estate that's nice, but it's a little bit. If I mentioned to you, if you were up north, it'd be like a bit of a rough estate. So he was meeting a group of 10 blokes he's never met in this random house in a dodgy estate. So anyways, he comes along, we hear a knock at the door, and he open the door, and I'm like, is it Dan? He's like, yeah, and I'm like, perfect, mate, I'm Jack. And I was like, come in, mate. I was like, pass your gear in. I take his models away. He walks in, random house, 10 blokes. As he walks in, I'm just like, Dan, this is, and I run through the list of names, and he's like, Ari? There's like this awkward silence for a few seconds, and I was like, So Dan, back in the tournament, and he's like, "Oh, okay, so I'm not getting robbed. This is a legitimate establishment. We're gonna play some Warhammer. That's fine." And then that's how we met. So yeah, he just comes along, we play some Warhammer, and then unfortunately, I was playing him the very first day, and I beat him then as well. So beat him then. And then I was like, mate, it was a very fun game. You have to play more. And then we just started naturally playing more and more of Warhammer, which is absolutely lovely. So it was a very nice way of meeting.
Awesome, that's a good story. So obviously, after a while, you decided to start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to do it? And whose idea was it? Was it yours or him, or did you literally do it together?
It was definitely Dan's idea. Dan was the one who approached me. I didn't have a massive interest in starting one at the time because I knew how much work goes into them, and I know how much like you've got to like really put in the time and spend. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that a lot of people don't know. And I used to do computer animation and visual effects at university, so I had like an idea on the process and like the visuals and the editing. So I didn't have any passion to do it. And then Dan was like, "Oh, can I ask you?" a couple of questions about like this, that, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And he started asking a few questions, and he goes, "Do you want to start a podcast?" And I started laughing. I was like, "No." I was like, I don't listen to podcasts. I was like, I go on YouTube all the time, but I don't like I don't have a vision to start one. And he was like, "Oh well, come on, we'll go for food. Like you pick the place, and we'll go for food." And I think he knows how to get to us. He's like, "Yeah, well, I'll take you for some food. He'll pay for it." So he got me hooked there. So I was like, "Right, let's go down there. Let's get some food." And he just started saying what he had planned, what he wanted to do. And then I just asked, I was like, well, "Why did you pick me?" I was like, I don't like being on camera. If he gives me a script, I mess up that script easily. I cannot. If you tell me to say like 5 words, you're gonna get 8 in a conversation because I just can't do it. So he was just like, "Look, I want to do this. I would love to start this. We've got some good passion, good chemistry." So I was like, "Well, look, let's give it a try." And at the time, he had no idea that I'd done like animation and such. So it's good and bad because Dan like does a lot of the online stuff, and I do a lot of the editing stuff. So it's a very good mix and a very good balance. But when we first started, I'm very much like I'm not a perfectionist, but I like stuff to be nice, and I like stuff to look good. Like when I'm editing, I'm happy that I'm editing what I've done, which is the main thing. And if I'm editing a video and I notice something, I'm like, that's got to get fixed for next time. Like that, I want it crisp. So it worked well because when Dan asked us to do it, I was very like not nitpicky, but I was very much like, come to the next recording session, had like a notepad. I was like, "We messed up this. Dan, you were too close to your mic. I was breathing too heavily," and I was just like rattling off all the stuff that I'd done wrong and what he'd done wrong. And
that's how you improve, though, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
You don't have to do it all in one go, but if you just take one of those things and like in the next one you try to improve that thing, then you gradually get better, don't you? I think you look at anybody's first videos and they're always can be improved, let's say.
Easily. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep our first videos on YouTube. I don't think I'll ever take them down, just because I look back and I'm like, oh, that aspect ratio, the lighting, the camera, the audio,
Mine are
awful.
Terrible. It's bearing in mind that when I started, like, YouTube was about like bad videos.
Yes,
that was what they were about. But yeah, my white balance is off. It's a battle report, and I had like illegal music on my first one, so I had to exchange it for music which doesn't really fit the report. And then it's basically just video footage with titles, and all the titles are spelt wrong. It's dreadful, but I'll never take it down because it's my first video.
They're good memories as well. I do jump on a few people's YouTubes and just go scroll down to their very first video. It's just it's so good to see the progression. It's so nice to be like, look how where this person like was, and now look at them. It's so nice. It's so good to see. So
I think also it's good to challenge yourself as well. It's like, doing these podcasts, I mean, I'll be honest, when I used to live stream, I always wanted a guest on my live stream, but I just felt it was awkward to do, and then not everybody wants to be on live.
So
I thought this is like quite a good way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something different for me. It keeps it interesting for me as well.
Well, that's it. You've got to do stuff that you enjoy as well. Like if you want to try it, then I think just got to give it a go. Just got to give it a go, see how it goes. And you know what? It might turn out bad. I remember some of the videos that I've tried where it's like one of the early editions of the rules videos that I was trying. They were awful. They were just like little things that I made. But I look at them, I look back at them, I'm like, you know what? I tried it. I liked it. Didn't work. I'm gonna move on. You know, it's good. It's just good to reminisce. I know it's only like a year ago, but really, it's like I love to see the progression. I think that's the main thing.
I think what's amazing as well when you look at some of the old videos that you've done. It's like you remember when you made that old video and how happy you were with it. It's like that is amazing. I'm couldn't get any better. When you upload it, and when you look back in like 6 months' time, you think that was really bad. You know, and then the video you're working on, then it's like. This is like really good. Yes. But then again, in another 6 months' time, you know, you just improve gradually.
Oh,
you do.
Massively. I mean, even like thumbnails, for example. Like, I mean, I just love glancing down and be like, oh, I still am to a degree, but like some of them were really bad. And I'm like, what am I playing at? Why did I think this was a good idea? And I remember like the transition of like, I think we were using like stills of like the podcast for thumbnails, and then I was like, that works, that's good. And I was like, it'd be better if I take some fit pictures just to get that higher quality. Yeah. And then I realized I don't like my face. I don't like my face being on camera. Don't like my face being on thumbnails. But I've got a friend. We have a friend now who does our thumbnails for us, just to help us out because he's starting his own YouTube. So it'd be good for him to help out on that part. And he just sends me a thing, like a few messages being like, your thumbnails are going in the right direction, but they need to be bigger. And I'm like, no, they don't. He goes, yeah, look. He goes, look at all these ones. And then I start looking at other thumbnails, and he goes, bigger. So I send him another copy of my thumbnail. He goes, bigger. He goes, give me the file. I'll show you how big your face needs to be. And he enlarges my face on the thumbnail. And I'm like, oh, I don't like it. Like, I don't. He goes, no. He goes, this is a good thumbnail. I'm like, no, I agree. It's me. I'm the problem on this thumbnail.
Yeah, what you don't appreciate, I think, when you're like editing your thumbnails and stuff, is how small they can sometimes appear on certain platforms. So you do have to make sure that when they are small, that you can read if there's any text, you know, and stuff on there. So it's a very important thing, that's for sure.
It's the balance of like, obviously we've got two people, so we've got to like fit two people on and then put text on, and I'm just like, well, if I put this text on, I can't fit us like in a nice position. It's like that back and forth, and it's so annoying, but it's when you make it and it looks nice, it's good to see it finally finished. I think that's one of the main things.
Absolutely. So I'm going to skip a couple of these questions because they're obviously going to be the same answer to what Dan gave. Let's move on to what do you enjoy the most about your channel?
You know what? I think I like a routine, and me and Dan's got a really good routine now of recording it and editing it. I think it keeps me busy. Like if I wasn't doing YouTube, I would just be
painting miniatures.
Probably painting miniatures, which is just as good. I do absolutely love that. But I think that was it. Actually, to be fair, I think that's probably a good one. Actually, like a year and a bit ago, so just before the podcast, I was like painting my miniatures, and it was good, and I enjoyed it. And then it was like, I'm kind of getting like not bored, but like I'm getting no inspiration, you know, like there's like no one around us when I'm painting, and it was like felt like not lonely, but more just like like, am I doing this right? Is it a better way? So I started Instagram. I started my channel, and I was taking pictures of the model, and I started getting people like feeding back and telling us what to do and such. And I was like, this is really good. So I started doing some like small videos for it, like, you know, one of the little spinny kind of circle things to show off the model. Loved it. Thought it was great. And then obviously that's when Dan approached us for the podcast, started kind of moving towards that. And I found what I was missing before the podcast was more just like, not like people saying, oh, this is great, but more just like the engagement. I loved getting in touch with people all of our comments that people reply to on our videos and such, I always reply to all of them. I love going through them. Dan picks up half the most of them, but then any ones that maybe he's away for, I'll pick them up, and I love reading them. Dan shares like some really nice
I
comments.
just assume it's Dan replying whenever a comment comes through. I think it's Dan.
I'm just chaining my desk to editing the videos. No, but yes, Dan typically replies to most of them, but like I'll always open them up and then just go through it, and I'll see any ones that may have been missed or anyone that haven't been replied to. I'll pick those ones up, and it's just really nice. I think it's just a good engagement to make me want to make more videos. So it's a nice routine. I edit the video, check out the comments, edit more, and just it's a nice cycle that I've got right now. So yeah.
Well, that's another reason why I'm starting to do these like podcasts as well. It's like the community side, because that's what I love about it. You know, I mean, it's changed. There are a few like the old school ones that used to be around when I first started, because obviously I've been on YouTube now like 15 years.
Well, yeah.
Most of the channels that I used to like communicate with, let's say, they've been and gone. You know, they don't load no more. Yeah. I mean, there's a good majority of that, you know, where they have gone. So it's a whole new community now. And so I'm sort of trying to go back to my roots really, and like connect with everyone, and you know, just like give some love back to all those other channels that are out there, you know, because it is hard work, isn't it? On YouTube.
Oh, it certainly is. It's like such again, you put so much time and effort into it, you know. It's really good. And I mean, you've absolutely made a fantastic little community after you've been helping out our channel for pretty much since the start, I want to say. You've really helped us with questions, and obviously the Dominion War that you've ran as well. That was such a good day. It was so good just to get, as you say, this new kind of cluster of channels together, just to relax and chat and just get to know each other and kind of just again build that community, because if we all bring our communities together, we've just got one massive one. So
yeah, no, exactly. And I get that funny enough, from the person that inspired me to do YouTube, which is Wargamer Fritz.
That name rings well.
Yeah. So he's on YouTube now with his channel, but his previous channel got closed down, got like strikes and stuff on. So he opened a brand new one. Yeah. But yeah, he was my inspiration. I was watching his channel, and he made me do my own channel. But not only that, but he also inspired me with like the community side of things. Yeah. Because I remember emailing him. It was a question about Aldar, because I was playing Aldar at the time. And emailing him, and he returned my email, you know, replied back. Nice. Yeah. And the feeling that gave me, the fact that like my like hero, I suppose you could say, you know, my inspiration actually replied to me, and I didn't expect it, you know. So knowing that, how that felt for me, it's like, well, I'd like to give that back to like somebody else. You know?
You've already done it to me and Dan, because I literally remember me and Dan having a chat, watching your videos, watching a few other channels' videos, and then we were just like, this like is really cool, like, and then we were just sitting there talking, being like, how do you start? It sounds like a very silly question, and probably a lot of YouTubers, a lot of smaller channels probably think it, but like we were just thinking, how do we collab? Like what do we do? What do we say? How do we get in touch? You know, like, do we go really formal? Like, you know, dear Mr. Beer, you know, like, I would like to inform you that we are taking interest. You know, like, we didn't know what to do. So we're just like, you know what? Let's just message. I think it was, I don't know how we're, again, Dan saw it's the social media, but I think it was Instagram or YouTube. I think we just messaged you, just saying like some stuff. And then it was like, oh, he's replying. It's like, oh my god, we didn't expect to get this far. Like, we thought it was gonna be like weeks on end. You know, like, you know, we'll probably get like an automatic response being like, you'll be in touch within 1 to 4 working weeks. And we were like, oh, but you were like literally come back within a day or so, and we were just like, this is amazing. This is so good. So you are 1,000% giving back. So me and Dan really appreciate it. Really do.
That's nice to hear. So, do you have any goals for the channel? We've obviously heard Dan's goals, but how about Jack's goals?
You know, yeah, it's really weird, because me and Dan, when we're on the way down to Dominion War, actually, we were discussing. We always have like a meeting every 6 months to kind of outline what we'd like for the channel. And I'm quite orientated in like setting us goals, because I feel like if I haven't got a goal, then we're not aiming for something, and we might slack on certain things. So I always say, like, I would love to get to this many like subscribers and this much watch time and yada yada. Now we've hit the watch time and we've hit like the subscriber count, so I'm just like, great, it'd be great to get that watch time up now, because for me it's like I want to make sure people are watching the content. Now, getting new people in, of course it's good, of course seeing the grand channel grow, but I feel like since we've hit like the 2,000 mark, I was like, I don't want to just constantly keep setting myself the goal of like subscriber. It's more just like, if I build that watch time, I know then people are interested in the videos.
The subscriber count is just like a
number.
As a modest like number, isn't it? It doesn't actually mean the most important thing is like returning viewers. They don't have to be subscribers, but just people that return and watch, and obviously ideally watch for as long as you can get them to watch. You know, that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So channel wise, that's definitely kind of where our next focus is, especially up till January time. I think January time is our next kind of meeting kind of thing. So yeah, just watch time, making sure people are liking the content. If they'll drop off a video, I'm always, again, very stat oriented. I'm like looking on YouTube, I'm like, right, where did they drop off? Why did they drop off? What did I say? What did Dan say? Was it the dog came in and disturbed people and that's what made them left? If they did, you're all bad. Never leave if my dog comes on. My dog's lovely. But yeah, so I'm very much, that's where I would like to go. I think for me personally, I don't know where I want to go, because I said to Dan on the way down to Dominion War, I was like, I would love to be like a commentator on like, you know, like the live streams for some of the tournaments and such. I would love to do that, but I then remember laughing, because like the day before we were recording one of the videos, and if you've probably watched a couple of our unit review ones, I just can't speak. I can't pronounce stuff. I'm very illiterate when it comes to a lot of things, and I'll be open and honest about it.
Especially Necron stuff as well. Some of the names are so impossible.
I was a fool for picking Necrons as my first army. I should have just picked like Imperial Guard for something like that, to keep the name something easy, because I can't pronounce anything. So I always just nudge Dan and be like, "Oh, Dan, you say that word for us, mate." I don't want to like embarrass myself too much. So like, I would sit here and say I would love to be a commentator, but I don't know how I'm going to do it, because if I can't pronounce people's names when I'm like introducing them, it's going to be an absolute car crash of a show. So yeah, that's where I'm going.
So I think it's enough about the channel. We'll move on to some random sort of gaming type questions that I've got here.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so we'll start off, because we haven't actually talked about this yet. So what editions have you played, and what is your favourite edition?
Yeah, so I mean, with confidence, I've really only played 9th and 10th. I have dipped in of 8th. I dipped in, because I think it was during the I don't know what we can say.
Yeah, it was 8th edition, wasn't it?
8th edition. So so I jumped in.
No, it was 9th, wasn't it?
That's still 9th.
I actually can't remember.
Even can I.
It was 9th.
9th. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What was the one? What was it? What was the one with the? There was I was going to say, what was the one with the book? But they all have books. There was like a white, a red, and a black book. It came in like a free book page.
Oh, that was 7th or
7th edition.
Or 6th.
So.
They
honestly,
all
they do,
other.
Don't they? Yeah, because like I've been around since 2005 because of my old email. So I've been around since 2005. So I've been dipping in and out of them, but I can never remember those rules. I don't retain that information so well. So with confidence, 9 and 10 with confidence. The rest of them is a blur at this point.
That 3 edition book, I remember that you bought that massive box, and all I did was I got it. I took the rule book out and put the others in the cupboard, not even looked at them.
They're still pristine, hidden away in a little cupboard. Because I'm just like got them out, and I was like, well, I only need the rules, so scrap these ones.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's the point? I mean, are we counting Index as an edition?
Not really. I think Index like would actually
in between, right?
Yeah.
I think 9.1, 0.10. I don't know. But yeah, no, 9 and 10 definitely the ones I remember and have very good memories playing. Yeah.
So which one would you say is your favourite then? Out of 9 and 10.
It's got to be 10. I think 10. They've made it easier, more accessible. it just flat out just smoother to play. Like I remember times in ninth where the game mode, I mean, Necrons, it was quite stale for me, especially near the end. Some of the secondaries that we had was more like sit on an objective and you score 10 victory points, and it's like,
Yeah.
nah, it's not. I'm not doing anything. All I'm really doing is surviving. So I'm just throwing like 100 bodies onto an objective and hoping they last for 5 turns to get those points.
Yeah.
So I think 10th, because they've just adapted it, they've made it better, they've got that randomness element to it where you're pulling down the tactical missions. I much prefer that element. I'm not a big fan of fixed, much prefer tactical and playing it. So 10th edition for me has got to be my favorite.
I think also the thing with ninth, I think there was only a certain amount of builds that you could really do and play to a high level.
Yeah.
Whereas I think although we might have a few like standout detachments, I think definitely there's a more variety, and also the way you list build as well, where there's not like fixed 3 elites. It's like, I think you're a lot freer to make different type of lists and still actually perform.
Yeah, I think people would argue saying that ninth had more flavour, and I would agree to disagree, but only because ninth had like had that full page of like you can pick whichever 2 abilities your army wanted.
Yeah.
But as you just said, they're just not good. There was only like one standout one that you would pick, and the rest of them were flavour, but you would never do well in a game. So this 10th edition, they've made all detachments, or one, I would say, playable in my eyes. I think the Obeisance Phalanx, I've played it once. I don't know if you might want to give me some tips on it, because I played it once. I just couldn't get like the funness out of it.
I played it, my very first detachment was with that one.
Yeah.
And whilst Richard didn't have like the most competitive orc army that he has, I did actually manage to win that game.
Good.
Which is nice. And I'm just about to play tomorrow. Actually, I'm playing a 1,000 points list. I know I'm going to lose that game because I must admit that detachment is really hard to build at 1,000 points.
Ooh, because it's all about like
hard.
It's all about like elite units.
2,000 points is definitely doable.
Right.
But there's a lot of really good things about it. And obviously, I'm gonna make a video about this. But there's a lot of really good things. Some unusual things I think that maybe people possibly haven't like thought of.
I love that in lists. Yeah, I absolutely love when people find that like niche within it to be like, look, everyone's sleeping on this. This is the way to play it. So let me know when that video comes out.
I'm not saying it's going to be better than like Hypercrypt.
No, you've promised us now, Nick. You've promised us. I need to see it. You've hyped it up.
For me, the weakest one is the Annihilation Legion.
Don't. No, that's so close to my heart. Nah. I've got to, as a fellow Necron player, I've got to disagree. I cannot have you slate my favorite. Honestly, it is my hands down my favorite detachment. It's so fun. It's so good.
It is. Oh yeah, absolutely. I love it. I mean, I love my flayed ones, and the flayed ones work well in there. The Scorpion Destroyers are great.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's down to my opponent. But when you're playing against a shooty orc opponent, you haven't got a chance.
I've felt the wrath of that list before, so I kind of get where you're coming from now. But no, honestly, the flayed ones are so close to my heart. I absolutely love them. But no, honestly, the Annihilation Legion has to be my favorite Necron one. And I don't know what it is, but every time I play it, I seem to do really well with it. I think my list I've got for it is really well defined.
You're really have to share the list.
I'll send it privately. I'll never put it on the video because I love it too good. But just to show how good it is actually. I was in a tournament once. In that tournament, there was 2 other Necron players. One of them was the Canoptic, and one of them was the Hypercrypt. I versed the Hypercrypt one, and I tabled them by turn 4. And I was like, yes. I was like, everyone wasn't expecting this to win. And I was so happy for it.
That's the good. That is definitely the positive thing, though, isn't it? And with the 5 detachments, there's a couple of maybe standout ones, but the other ones in the right hands, because I think that's the thing with the Hypercrypt and stuff. Most people could probably pick it up.
Yes.
And play it. You teleport off. You can move around the board. There's not too much to it, is there?
Yeah.
But in the right hands, the other ones are definitely, I think,
And it's interesting. It's interesting that we're on the complete opposites to like the Necron builds. You're playing the Obedience Flax, saying it's good, and then I'm like, what? I can never make it work. And then you're saying the Annihilation Legion, and I'm just like, what? No, this is like one of the best ones. It's. I guess it does come down to play style as well. You know, how
Absolutely,
you play your
yeah.
game. Your detachments will sing to you. So yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing that now. 'Cause I do want
obviously,
it to
yeah,
work.
playing against orcs as well. I generally don't like
Oh,
going
tough.
forward too much. I've got to this habit now, and I think it comes from 9th edition, because the only way I could win in 9th was basically deploy, and then in my turn I move back.
Yeah,
And then in my turn I move
100%.
back, and I
Yep.
score nothing at the beginning,
Yeah.
and then I score all my points at the end once I've whittled the orcs down.
Mhm.
Because if I move out and hit Richard like head on in the middle
Yeah.
of the board,
It's just
even if
that
I've
war.
got assault units,
Yeah.
those orcs are just so nasty.
So horrible. Yeah. I mean, again, I've experienced it, and it's horrible. But yeah, just orcs in general. We've obviously got a friend who also plays orcs, but he is literally just like a one mindset where he's like, I must move forward. I never go back. I can never ditch for cover. He just he knows what he knows what he wants to do, and he
A
knows
lot
he
of
wants
orc
to go
players are
forward.
like that, aren't they?
They are.
Like, we're orcs. We're going forward. I
Yeah,
don't care.
exactly. So like, as soon as I hear that massive scream of war, I'm moving backwards. I don't care what anyone says. It's tactical retreat. I'll come back swinging later. But yeah, they are scary orcs when they war.
Yeah. Also, I've recently been playing the Doom Scythes.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, in the doubles game I had with Planet 40K.
Yes, how are they?
And they put out some hurt. They did well. I think Richard probably will just shoot them down. So, but
yeah, but hey, you never know. I was about to say, they don't have the -1 to hit because being a flyer, do they? That was 9th edition, 10th editions. Take that away.
Yeah.
I do like
put the 4+ invulnerable save on one if you wanted to, but
for the CP, is that right?
Yeah, CP, yeah.
That's a good one. I quite like the. I really like the Night Scythe now. I think someone mentioned it in one of the comments, saying that the ability to throw down some units, do all the shooting, and then bring them back up in the fight phase. It's such a good ability that I think a lot of people sleep on. So I've got one of those to do that.
Yeah, I haven't played the Night Scythe yet, but in my 2,000 points, I don't want to say it, I'm avoiding saying it. Obeisance, flanks, whatever it's called. But my 2,000 point list is going to have a Night Scythe in.
Honestly, recommend it. You'll love it. Yeah, whack
nice
some
like delivery system.
Yeah.
Like Lich Guard or something.
Lich Guard, honestly, or like the just some Tesla Immortals that just pop out. All the sustain and then jump back in. You'll shred through some of the orcs. Like, to be fair, I mean, even the ones that he has for the shooting boys. Honestly, just fly your guy behind them.
Boys.
That's true. That is also true. Fly them 18 inches, more than 18 inches away. No, because Overwatch is 18, 24, isn't it? Anyways,
24, isn't it?
Yeah, just get there, jump out, shoot them, jump back in. It'll be golden.
I hope they get rid of that Overwatch stratagem in the new update.
That would be nice.
I hate that stratagem.
It's so bad. I mean, it's only because we get really scarred by it.
Well, this is it. I mean, people build, don't they, for that stratagem? They build the best unit they can get to use that stratagem, because it is very powerful.
Yeah, for powerful. 1 CP. Yeah, if you do the right combos with it, it's really good. Really, really good.
So we talked about some of these. So we talked about lots of positive things about 10th, but what about 10th edition is that you don't like?
Oh, 10th edition that I don't like. Can I mention? I'm trying to. I don't know if I can think of anything. There's plenty. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
just can't think of it.
I just can't think. I mean, I want to say fly. I hate fly. I can't believe they've ruined my baby. Fly, keyword. I just don't. I don't like what they've done with it. I just think it's silly how our Catans can barely make it over walls anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you can't get fully over in some of the bases are too big to land on top of it, so they've got to go around. I think that's one of the big things that me and Dan bang on about constantly about 10th edition. I think that's it.
How about the new pivot rule thing?
Oh yeah, pivot as well. I hate that. Yeah, I can't stand pivot either. Especially now that I was just started playing, because at Necrons, we had a few of them that required pivot and such, but I've just started playing the Imperial Knights, like fully got a fully painted army for it now. So the armigers that I've got, they're around base, so not to worry. But the two big ones that I'd like to bring, they've got like an oval base, and it's just like I just don't like it because I feel like because the big ones can move through buildings, so it's like just it's awkward to move it through because like I don't want to feel like I'm cheating my opponent by like twisting it slightly because you have to account for it. So I'm literally like, right, can you see that, Timoja? Are you happy that I can move through it? He's like, yeah, I'm happy. So then I plonk it down, and the just naturally because of how the building might overhang or my base kind of like touches the wall, it looks like it's moved slightly, and I'm like, I could clear it. It looks a little bit strange, but we measure it, and I'm just like, look, as long as you're happy, I'm happy to move it. So I feel like that it forces a lot more
I'll
unnecessary
be honest,
conversation.
I can't even remember what they all are. It's so confusing now.
Yeah.
The fact that they changed it and they changed it again.
Oh goodness,
And
man.
I played Planet 40K
Yeah.
the night before we played our doubles game. We had a singles game. And honestly, every time we moved the model, it's like, right, what is the pivot on this one? And we kept having to look it up. I said, I need to print that out and have it next to the table so I can actually work out what units have it.
I think
it's silly, I think.
It really is because they've made this change to a model that is very common, and that's what stops the game. If it was like a change to another rule that maybe isn't used as much, it wouldn't impact your games and it probably wouldn't get this much hate for it. But because most models have this weird overhanging base or like this weird shape, it's coming up a lot more conversations and it's stopping the flow of the game. And I think that's why me in particular hate it, because it's ruining the flow of the game. Is one of the best
that's
way
right.
to
You have to
describe
get your tape measure. Like, no, what size base is that model on?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And some of my bases I've actually put big, like my Deceiver, for example. I've got a bigger base for it than it actually came with originally.
It's like super small,
Yeah, it's super small originally. But when I first started playing the 3rd edition, when you had to have your opponent's permission to play the Deceiver or Nightbringer, you had to play at least 1,500 points, and your opponent had to agree for you to bring it because they were super powerful.
Had to agree? What edition was this?
You had the 3rd edition.
What? You had to ask your opponent.
If you read the 3rd edition codex, the Nightbringer, it says you have to have your opponent's permission to play this model. But it was really super powerful.
Right.
And it had a small base. And when you're in combat with it, it had this ability where you got the blast template and you put it over the model, and anything hit by this blast template got obliterated effectively. It was so powerful that my buddy said, yeah, you can play it, but you can only play it if you put it on a bigger base.
Fair, yeah. That makes sense.
So I remodeled it on the bigger base, but I didn't actually mind because the bigger base meant that they didn't topple over so much because they're metal models.
They're
they
so
were a bit
awkward.
Especially if you've got a piece of terrain which is like a slope, and you put the model on, it falls over and stuff.
Constantly fall backwards. The Deceiver's pointing as well, so it's going to constantly just break its arm as it hits the floor. But it's to be fair, it's a very cool model. I've got mine just over there, but it's not the metal one. It's just the resin one, I think it is.
Finecast,
Finecast, that's the one.
Again, when I played Planet 40K, he used my Deceiver.
Nice.
Because he didn't own the model, and he was loving it. He was picking up. Oh, it's so heavy. He goes, oh, it was lovely. That's the thing. The metal models, I don't think a lot of people appreciate it. I know if you've got 10 models and they're plastic and you just want to pick them up, you can just there they are. If you do that with metal, obviously they all get chipped. So there's a lot more work, and I understand that, but there's something about a metal model.
It is somehow it's just the idea of picking it up and being like, oh, there's some weight to this. Then it kind of makes you feel it and look at it more, I think, when it comes to that sort of stuff. And I think realistically with Warhammer, if you have a metal model, it's one of the classics, and it's like, oh, I need to observe this model. So it's very good.
Okay, well, I have one last question for you.
So
obviously both yourself and Dan play Necrons.
Yes.
Would you say they're your main armies?
Necrons. I think Dan's loving Drukhari, but I think it's probably still the Necrons.
So have you ever played Necrons versus Necrons?
We have a few times, a couple of times, and it's good. To be fair, it is really good. Where again, our very first game together was, I think it was Necrons versus Necrons, and I was very much showing them because Dan was very new to it, and that's always but we're still learning and such. So we've definitely played it together, and it's really fun because I forget how good Necrons can be. So when like when Dan puts his Necrons against mine, I'm like, oh yeah, Dan, no worries, man, you just shoot that model, and he just decimates my unit, and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I need to field one of those because that is incredible. But one of the models I love versing with Dan is his Catan, because I don't know what it is, but Dan's Catan fails just to hit anything. It's you hit on twos, and whenever he rolls six, whenever he rolls the 6 dice, he always rolls at least 3 when he plays against me. And he hates it, but it is absolute bliss for me to watch it happen.
I used to be the same at Locust Heavy Destroyers.
Yes.
Back in the days where they could re-roll 1s to hit.
Yeah.
So you need 3s to hit, re-roll 1s, and I rolled 2s. 3 2s.
Standard.
So many times I've rolled 3 2s.
It's so sad when that happens, when you're just like, oh yeah, it's like statistically it's in my favor. Oh, there's the 2s. Fantastic. Lovely game. Waste them around. But yeah, I mean, because with the model being so pricey, seeing him fail it's like, it's good for me because obviously I didn't want the attacks to go through, but at the same time I'm like, oh sorry mate, that is that's tough. But yes, no, we play. Dan's loving his Drakari at the minute. So we've not played in a long time, but I think there's definitely a rematch on the table for me and Dan for been a very long time.
Awesome, excellent. Well, thank you, Jack, for coming on the show. It's been awesome to chat to you.
Thanks for having us.
To all of my viewers, of course, again, link in the description below. Make sure you head on over and give these guys a sub, because you will seriously love their videos.
Thank you so much.
That's it from us. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Dan. Bye-bye. Perfect.
Excellent. So I've got my little tap in there. Let's see how that comes out.
Perfect.
Happy with that? Days. Breathe now, can you?
Yeah, I certainly can. But yes. How was that? Was that okay for you?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.